Yeah, Mahesh, go ahead.
Thank you, Jagamarji, for taking my question. This is something I raised with you last week, and you asked me to raise it in the Satsang. Yeah, so my question was, we learned all this three about the projections, like Pradivasika Satyam, Vyavaharika Satyam, and Paramarthika Satyam, based on. But my question is based on the definition of Satyam. The Pradivasika Satyam and Vyavaharika Satyam are actually Mithya. They are not, and the third one is actually Satyam. So my question is, like, why it is called Pradivasika Satyam? Shouldn't it be called Pradivasika Mithya, Pradivasika Vyavaharika Mithya, and the third one can be then simple Satyam? That is part A, and I will ask the part B later. After.
Yeah, so the question is this. So we talk about three Satyams, Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, and Pratibhasika. And so shouldn't the other two Satyas, which is Pratibhasikam and Vyavaharikam, be called Mithya? Shouldn't they be called Pratibhasika Mithya and Vyavaharika Mithya? See, yes, first step. Pratibhasika Satyam and Vyavaharika Satyam are Mithya. That's a correct statement, right? Then what is Satyam? Paramarthika Satyam is Satyam. All right. When we say this, that Satyam, what is the meaning of the word Satyam when we say it like this? When we say there are two things called Satyam and Mithya, what is the meaning of Satyam there? Satyam is the non-negatable truth. The non-negatable truth is called Satyam. That which exists in all three periods of time, Trikala Abaditam, Trikala Titam is called Satyam. That is the definition of Satyam in this sentence, that this is Satyam and this is Mithya. Because everything else that changes with time is put under the category of Mithya. That is the definition of Satyam. But when the meaning of the word Satyam when you say these three Satyams, Paramarthika Satyam, Vyavaharika Satyam, and Pratibhasika Satyam, the meaning of Satyam is not that meaning of Satyam. The non-negatable truth Satyam. It has a different meaning now. What is the different meaning? A. It is this English word real. Real. What is the meaning of the English word real? It's anybody's guess. It's anybody's guess. All these transactions, all these people, everything is real. The tree is real or not real? It's real. Okay, all right. What about the dream that you had yesterday? My God, the dream was even more real. We can sit here and talk, it is Pratibhasika Satyam and all, but in the dream, it was very real. So for that guy, the dream was even more real than the tree. Okay, it's all real, real, real. English does not have a word for Paramarthika Satyam. Therefore, that Satyam is, okay, reality. Let's accept reality. There is something called reality. And now let's talk about the different types of reality. In that meaning, if you ask, then I will say one type of reality is Pratibhasika Satyam, your dream reality. Another type of reality is this tree reality, which is Vyavaharika Satyam. And another type of Satyam is Paramarthika reality. General reality. Okay. That Satyam is not the same as this Satyam. Different contexts. I think that should help you somewhat, I
feel. Now, I was thinking that maybe these definitions came from Visishta Advaita, because for them everything is Satya.
Yeah, I won't say definitions came from Visishta Advaita. The definition comes from Advaita.
No, I mean, I don't know who this terminology.
Advaita, correct, because Visishta Advaita does not have Mithya at all. the definition cannot come from Advaita, from Vishishta Advaita. It has to come from Advaita only. Because Advaita wants to teach us there is something called Paramarthika Satyam. It is compelled to classify reality.
But Vishishta Advaita also, if everything is Satyam, they don't want to, probably they don't put everything in one bucket. So they want to qualify that Satyam into, or categorize into three buckets, so to speak, and say they have to add some adjective to qualify that Satyam, which is either transactional reality or Pradibhasika projections, or the real Satyam.
Yeah, I would like to know how they categorize the world. One thing I know is for them the world is Satyam. Okay. Do they have different the Swarga, the Vaikuntha is much more real, they might say. I don't know. I like to see those words. I've not heard those words yet. So I'd like to know how they define it, how they categorize Satyam. But definitely their categorization of Satyam is going to be different from ours. Because for them everything is Paramarthika Satyam. There is no such thing as Vyavaharika Satyam versus Paramarthika Satyam. Therefore, that division is gone. So what's left out is Pratibhasikam and Paramarthikam. Because Vyavaharikam has been swallowed under Paramarthikam, right? And so two Satyams are there.
But I thought they may still categorize one Satyam, like which is most superior or something like that. Other than say something has to be differentiated between say a tree and something more.
I mean, I have to find, let's say, Vishishta Advaiti, let them come and tell me that. I'm willing to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I asked some people, but I haven't gotten a proper response. Let me put it this way, which is satisfied me.
That is because everything is Satyam. And then what is Vaikuntha? That's an important Satyam. This Satyam is like in transit. We are in transit, right? In transit Satyam. And an important Satyam, but in transit, not as important as the final destination Satyam. So they are not going to worry so much about these things.
So they have to differentiate between, say, Vaikuntha and a tree, right?
See, they have to differentiate between dream and this waking world first, right?
Yeah.
Dream reality. Do they have a word for dream reality? I don't know. I mean, I want to hear that. I want to hear an analysis.
Yeah, I asked a couple of people who have been learning Bhagavad Gita, for example.
Okay.
They have not heard this terminology at all. To begin, at least he has not heard. I shouldn't say they. He has.
Yeah, next time Velugudi Krishnanji comes to you.
Only the Madhyamika Buddhism has this three. Nobody else has any differentiation between the Paramarthika, Pratibhasika, and Vyavaharika. It's only the Madhyamika Buddhism has that. Other than that, it's Satyam.
So on this, I'm sorry.
They only mentioned
on the same lines. My question was also same way, like we call it Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. To me, Brahman by definition is Nirguna. It is like saying honest Harichandra and dishonest Harichandra. Because by definition, Brahman is Nirguna. And Saguna Brahman is Ishvara. I don't know why we qualify something which is attribute less, no attribute, and add a qualification to that, or add an attribute, or lack of attribute.
Shastram doesn't do that. We do that.
I know. I'm saying we only. I didn't say Shastra. I am only saying.
I'm answering your question. Your question. Your implied question is why do we do that, or why it is done like that? Let's put it in passive. So without putting agency there.
Correct.
Why is it done like Well, it's done like that because I have assumed myself to be a mortal. And I have my own definition of the world, and I have my own definition of success. I have my own definition of everything. And so Shastram is helpless. It has to go along with us. And then Shastram wants to say that your essence is not what you think you are. And therefore it has to start with guna only. Guna. All this entire world is gunatmakam. And God is also there. And God has to better do something to me. Okay, that is why I am worshipping God. And therefore, what He's a giver of all these things. So He is also an actor in this whole game. Very big actor in this world. I am also an actor. He's also an actor. And so much we have set up. Shastram has to go along with it. Okay, Dharmartha, Kama, go. Keep doing. Follow Dharma. And then someday maybe something happens. And then this kind of situation arises, and which makes us ask the question, hey, wait a minute, how come you have two Brahmas and there is really only Brahma? And then where did the Saguna Brahma come from? Good question, is all we can say. Stick around for a little longer is all I will tell you.
No, but what I'm saying, when we started, I can understand. I don't know where these definitions come from, but having learned Advaita Vedanta for the last few years, at least I thought we should refrain from using that kind of.
Refrain from using what?
No, instead of defining like Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman, we say Ishvara and Brahman.
See, everything is Saguna. Without Sagunam, you can't be listening to me and I can't be talking. Okay, everything is Sagunam.
Okay.
There is no, so therefore Sagunam is a very important aspect of our life. In fact, life itself means Sagunam.
Yeah, so we also say everything is Ishvara, right?
Everything is Sagunam. So through Sagunam, we have to appreciate Nirgunam.
Yeah, I'm saying is Brahman, I'm saying by calling, the way you.
Therefore, the Shastra. Now, is an important question, by the way, folks. And therefore, the Shastram says the entire teaching is what? Adhyaropa apavada. What is the meaning of that? Adhyaropa means going along with whatever we think life is, the world is, and I am. Going along with it. It's called Adhyaropa. Superimposition is there and accept the superimposition and then accept everything. Yeah, cause, effect. Yeah, God created this world. Yeah. Correct. Everything is correct. Everything you say is correct. And quietly take you towards Nirgunam Brahma and then do what is called Apavada. Negate the whole idea of cause, effect. And all that is left is Nirgunam Brahma.
Yeah.
This is the Shastra state.
Yeah, so we are in that kind of transition from one to another. So having understood at least some of it, I thought we should be using this definition. That's just my opinion.
You can use whatever definition you want. Okay. But a jnani also is in the Saguna Jagat only. And jnani also, when he wants to teach, it's all Saguna only. And so Saguna will always be there. Despite the vision of Nirgunatvam. Okay. Whatever word I use, jnani uses. Jnani uses. Swamiji uses. It's meant for our understanding. But the Gunatvam is always there. Body itself, Guna only. Without the body, there's no question of anything happening. And so, therefore, that is why the Adhyaropa Apavada is a beautiful idea. And that actually makes things very clear. It is not what you use or not use. It is what I understand. Correct?
Understand, yeah.
That's all. Finally, that's understand. That's why understanding is crucial here. And then what happens? Yeah. Then, okay. Saguna Brahma. Because now Brahma plays a very important role in my understanding of everything. And therefore, I can say, okay, that projected Brahma, that world, that Ishvara that I'm projecting is a projection on Brahma. and which needs a name. Because now after class, I have to have breakfast or dinner. Brahma is having Brahma or what? And you go around and you go to the store and go to the restaurant and say, I want some Brahma means what? You know what they will say here in India, in Tamil Nadu? என்னது இவன் பிரம்ம பிடிச்சிருக்கான் போல் இருக்கு இவனுக்கு. Literally, பிரம்ம பிடிச்சிருக்குன்னா that is a term. I'm sure it is there in every language. Brahma பிடிச்சிருக்கு means this fellow is seized by some madness called Brahma. That Brahma is equal to madness. And so we have to transact. So we have to use Saguna words only to transact. And so, therefore, that's why understanding is crucial. So your question is well taken. And it's important. It's an important question because if everything is Sarvam Kalu Idam Brahma, then only you have all these words. All these words, Shankaracharya will say, Atma Prakashanaya. Means what? In order to reveal that Atma which is Nirgunam, all these Saguna words will be used. And therefore, Nirgunam can never be categorically pointed out. Because the minute you point out, you're talking about Guna only. So this question has a lot of implications. Correct?
Yeah. And the last question, last one is when we say, in the last chapter we talked about going, or previous chapters we said we're going from, say, Ekarupa or Anekarupa Ishvara to Ekarupa Ishvara to Vishwarupa to Arupa Ishvara, right? Arupa. So how do anyone do dhyanam on a Arupa Ishvara or Brahma? How do you do Nidhyasanam or Dhyanam? Because somewhere I read, I think by Swami Chinmayananda or maybe Puja Swamiji, I don't remember, somewhere I read saying that for any Dhyanam to be performed, you have to have something to perceive, something to be perceived. That's what it's. It could be a flame, it could be a murti, it could be something in cognitively. We need to have something to do dhanam, otherwise you are unable to do it. So I'm wondering how people do dhyanam on Arupa Ishvara?
Yeah. So this is also a good question. The definition of Dhyanam is Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. It's a mental occupation. Mental occupation because other type physical occupation is also there. Sensory occupation is also there. So here it is mental occupation, which means you just shut your other senses off and you just be quiet because body is not required for this occupation. Therefore, mental occupation. Of what? Saguna Vishaya. Of Saguna Brahma. Not Nirguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. Saguna Brahma. Therefore, of Ishta Devata. Saguna Brahma means of Devatas as we know it. Okay, that is Saguna Brahma. And then you visualize your Ishta Devata and whatever meditation was taught, we will do that. Typically involving not a variety of ideas, but a limited number of ideas, then finally one idea only, just nama, repetition of namas, all that is dhyana. Okay. Now, how do I meditate on Nirguna Brahma? It's a question. Now, Nirguna Brahma is Atma. Atma is the self. How can I meditate on the self? That is another way of translating Maheshji's question. How do I meditate on the self? Well, in any action, there is a triputi. Triputi means what? Like if I say I see something, there must be a seer, drashta. There must be a seen thing called drishyam. Okay. And this sight happens, and sight is called darshanam. Okay. Drashta, drishyam, darshanam. This is called triputi. Means that tripartite division has to be there. All right. What could be the division? Unless there is a division, you can't say I saw something, right? You must say I saw something. I tasted something. Suddenly, the thought of my high school came into my head. I didn't see with my eyes. I didn't see, but that far past memory came. Okay, memory came of my school. Correct. So there is a triputi in all these things. In emotions also triputi. I see a particular emotion. But I want to do dhyanam on self means I have to see the self, which means the self has to be objectified. Today we just saw anything that can be objectified is kshetram. That which cannot be objectified is the one who objectifies the kshetram is called kshetrajna, which is atma, which is nirgunam brahma. Therefore, by that definition, it is impossible to meditate on atma. Now we have to change the definition of meditation. How do you change it? You now say it, use a different word called nididhyasana. Then what happens? Then this dhyanam that I was using, that I was doing all these years, now after shravanam and mananam, my understanding is crystal clear. Now what happens? I need to, I need to, I need to recall the teachings. Means I need to remind myself. Reminder, like the people coming from abroad have come to India, they have to remind it that the driver is on the right side of the car, not on the left side. So constantly this guy goes to the right side to sit because he thinks the driver of the taxi is on the left side. No, no, not on the left side, right side, right. So he keeps on doing this in a production. Whether he goes to the temple and does pradakshanam or not, he will do a production of the car all the time. Why? Because he's on the wrong side. Then he has to come back, wrong side, come back. He has to sit and meditate. That meditate on what? Meditate on a fact which is clear, but I'm making a mistake somewhere. The mistake is not in what I know. The mistake is that how it manifests in my life. So this is called a type of dhyanam called nididhyasanam. Okay, viparita bhavana nivritti. We saw that, and so there asangoham, asangoham. We will do this, by the way. See, we've been doing Dhanam all these years, and we started some very basics. I hope you remember that. How to sit, what is asanam and all this we started. Slowly, we stopped those initial steps, and then we started doing Ishtadevata Dhyanam. Okay. And then spending more time on chanting itself. Okay. And then spending time recalling some of the shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita, and then uh, recalling that message, and then keeping that one message in the mind, and then doing japa. We've come this far. So at some point, we will come to what is called nididhyasana, which involves reminding myself. Okay, Sachidanandarupoham, asangoham, asangoham, punah punah. So reminding myself that I am asanga really. I have to remind myself, right? I have to remind myself what I know. I am asanga. I am not the body. I am kshetrajna. Let things happen to the body. I don't need to react. Things will happen. Do whatever it takes to take care of the body. But I'm responsible for the body, yes, because of the way things are. But I'm not the body. Whatever happens to the body, I am an asangoham. Whatever happens to my family members, asangoham. I'm responsible. If they are depending on me, I am responsible for them. No doubt about that. Asangoham. Asangoham. Why? Because Shravanam and Mananam is done. When Shravanam and Mananam is done, there is nothing more to know. And so, we don't say, how do I meditate on Mahatma? We will say, how do I do Nididhyasana? It's no longer meditation like we did meditation before, thinking about one particular Saguna Brahma Ishta Devata. It's not like that. Therefore, we don't meditate on Arupa. We might meditate on Vishwarupa, possible, Bhuvpadav Yasya Nabhihi. Difficult, but it's possible. Can visualize the entire universe. That's great actually, because the mind is really opening up, completely opening up. Otherwise, I get caught up in small things, and my mind is just fragmented. And so Vishwarupa Dhyanam is so good. I can just let go. Then Arupa is reminding myself of the Mahavakyas, reminding myself of the words used by Krishna in the second chapter and certain key chapter. Ajo Nitya Shashvatoyam Aham Ajaha. Until now, it was just a Sanskrit word, but now it has to go beyond just being a Sanskrit word. I am unborn means what? I know what it means to be. Now I know what is unborn. I want to remind myself. Ajaha, Avinashi. I am Avinashi. Is it a textbook statement or do I really know I am Avinashi? Did I get it or not? That getting it part. I got it, but now I need to remind myself because my behavior seems to think that I am a Vinashi. Because my association is with the body all along. Therefore, it takes a little while, it takes a little nididhyasanam to snap that identity. Cognitively snapped, but in Vyavaharikam also it has to snap. Only then my Vyavaharika now will be like a Jnani's Vyavaharika. Still, the Jnani knows everything just exactly well as before, but no question of panicking, no question of anxiety beyond a certain point. Some anxiety will be there, knee-jerk reaction may be there. But so, Maheshji, that is what Nididhyasana is. There's no objective thing of art.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through that 5 stages of bhakti we defined when we summarized the 12th chapter. On that 4th stage was the Vishwarupa Upasana. And the 5th stage, we didn't call it as a Nirguna Brahma Upasana, we said Nirguna Brahma Vichara. So I took it as an inquiry.
Correct. So really after Vishwarupa Dhyanam only Jnana Yoga comes in. Shravanam Mananam comes after Vishwarupa Dhyanam. Okay, because after Vishwarupa Dhyanam, what happens? Then the connection between me and the world, the possibility of the connection looms very large in my mind. And therefore I'm ready for Shastra Patanam, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasana. Then it's a more of a textbook journey, right? None of us is that prepared. And so Swamiji says in one talk, he says, for the person who is unprepared, Shravanam will become Karma Yoga. Look at this. Unprepared means not the way the textbook says I must prepare myself. Adhikaritvam and all, Vivekam, Vairagyam and all is there. I am not prepared, but I have enough preparation to appreciate all this. And after Shravanam, I will continue to prepare myself. So it's Karma Yoga for such a person. And then Jnana Yoga. I think Rupuniji may have to go. And Rupuniji, if you have to ask a question, you've been waiting for a while, please. So Maheshji, we'll continue the discussion, okay? Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Mahesh ji, I have to cut Jaykumar ji's answer to you. My
No,
question
I am
is
done.
very simple, Jaykumar ji. What is the difference between attributes and lakshanas?
Attributes and lakshanas, okay? So the formal meaning of attribute in Sanskrit is guna. Guna means attribute. Any quality of an object is an attribute. It's a guna. Lakshana is often used when we have to talk about defining attribute. Definition, it's not just an attribute, but a defining attribute. Okay? Defining attribute. So, Suppose there's a person, okay? Nobody's perfect, okay? Person did something that was not right at one time, but that may not define the person. Person, no, fundamentally the person is good, person is helpful, the person is compassionate, person does the, but yeah, that's an aberration. Okay, you don't define the person using that data point, we say. So that becomes a lakshana. Lakshana means what defines something fundamentally. And so Shastram and Shankara also uses the word lakshana to imply characteristics, characterized by. Sometimes we use that word, characterized by. Essential characteristics are called lakshanas. Guna attribute generally can be many. An object can have many attributes. Okay? But lakshana, we will say, for example, mithya. Any object will have attributes. Taste, smell, color, density, this, that, physical attributes are many. Okay. But lakshana, when you ask Shankara, he will say anityam. He will say anityam. That is the essence. You can talk about whatever qualities. Tomorrow, chemistry can come up with more attributes that you don't know also. You keep that with you. You can get your PhD degrees, but I'll tell you it's all anityam, he will say. Lakshana. He is more interested in that lakshana of mithya. So that's my comment on Lakshanam versus Guna. Rukmini, any thoughts on that? Did you hear anything else?
No, when we talk about Atma, in the second chapter, Bhagavan says so many things about the Atma is attributeless, and I am confused now. The lakshanas and attributes. Can I take lakshanas means certain characteristics, certain qualities which describes about a person, when attributeless means maybe what the jiva superimposes on atma, that atma is not this, not this.
So, two things. One is Lakshana versus Guna. Then Anatma versus Atma. Two things. We are talking about two different things, right? Lakshana and Guna of Anatma is what we talked about. The Atma, if you bring in, Atma, if you bring in, Atma is Nirguna, no attributes. But what is the Lakshana of Atma if somebody can ask the question? Guna, Atma is Nirgunam, no Guna. Atma is no Guna. But what is the Lakshanam if they ask? You should say what? Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Sat Chit Ananda are the Lakshanas of Atma. But wait a minute. If Atma is Nirgunam, what is Lakshana? What is the difference between these two? Well, these are there because there is a potential to confuse Lakshana with Guna. Somebody might say, one of the gunas of Atma is Satyam. One of the gunas of Atma is Jnanam. One of the gunas of Atma is Ananda. Thankfully, Atma is Ananda. I know it, but better have guna of Ananda. Otherwise, I'm not interested in any of these things. Right? Ananda must be there. There, Ananda is a guna only. What we say is these are not lakshanas like gunas. These are asadharana lakshanani. Asadharana means not the sadharanam, the word lakshana that you use, like gunas. It is asadharanam, means these are the implied, that too implied also, because it is not an object, it is a subject. You cannot categorically point to it, and it is nirgunam, therefore there can't be any guna. Therefore, these are implied. These are the implied. English, we can't even use any word for that. Asadharana lakshanani of Atma. And so that's the way we look at it. Otherwise, it becomes attributes, gunas. And then if the minute we say guna, then it's gone. Then we have not understood. So good question, Puneet. Lakshanam versus Guna. Ask Srinivasiji, let's see what he says.
I will.
Yeah.
Jaykumarji, is there something we can relate to Vachyardham and Lakshardham? No? Gunas and
That's a different context. That's a different context. Vachyartham and Lakshyartham imply direct meaning. Literal meaning versus implied meaning. Right? Literal meaning. And we do it all the time in our conversations. Literal versus implied. Okay, that is the Lakshya, right? Yeah, so you get that Lakshya there comes there also. Good. Anything else? Yeah, Meera and Narayan.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaste.
I was just trying to understand Maheshji's question in context with the pot and the clay. And I was thinking, like, as Rukmini ji was saying, the Lakshanas, the Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, the Satyam part is the existence which everything shares equally, right? Everything has this Satyam. So even the pot is in that way. When we start understanding from the perspective of Satyam, you just can't exclude it when you are even talking about Sagunam. So I thought, like, you understand from the perspective of Brahman, then everything seems to be, existence is shared in everything. So maybe that is the reason Pratibhasika Satyam and Vyavaharika Satyam could be. That was something which I was trying to understand. Like, if you take it as two different things, which is not actually, so then it becomes difficult to understand that how is it confused with mithya. But then the existence is shared, the Brahman shares its existence in everything, right? So I was thinking that that could help in understanding that, there's no confusion there.
Yeah, there's no confusion at all. There's absolutely no confusion. There should between these three Satyams. Okay, number one. And yeah, Pratibhasika Satyam depends on Paramarthika Satyam. Vyavaharika Satyam depends on Paramarthika Satyam. No doubt about that. Just because we are having three Satyams doesn't mean they are independent Satyams. In fact, we can even say Paramarthika Satyam, Pratibhasika Satyam depends on Vyavaharika Satyam also. You can even say that. Why not? Because my body must be there first in order for dream to exist. Mind must be there in order for the dream. Mind is Vyavaharikam or Pratibhasika?
Mind is Vyavaharika.
Vyavaharika. Yeah. And so therefore, one rests on the other, rests on the other. So they are not independent. They are not independent.
So it is sharing the existence because it is there everywhere. I mean, you can't deny the pot.
So what Meera is saying is, when we say what exists, what is there? I see a pot. Okay. If you say that pot exists, that existence does not belong to pot.
Correct.
It's an amazing thing. That pot, you can say whatever you want, pot, brown pot, blue pot, small pot, big, anything you want, you can describe the whole pot, you can write a whole essay on the pot. But that existence is borrowed from Paramarthika Satyam Brahma.
Brahman only. Yeah. So you can't say Satyam is apart from. Okay.
Apartness is gone, it's not there at all. There is no apartness.
So that's the reason Satyam is a part of, Paramarthika Satyam, Pratibhasika Satyam, because there's nothing which does not exist.
Right. But that is not the purpose for dividing the Satyam into three. The purpose is to really appreciate the realities.
Yeah.
It's an understanding of reality. So, Mirage, water is there. Is it real or unreal? If you say it's in English, you will say it's unreal. Is the body real or unreal? If you say, English doesn't have an answer. That's the problem. You can't really, unless we come into Sanskrit, we can't really explore it. That is why all Western philosophers just circling, they have not been able to come to the point. If you look at Friedrich Nietzsche, okay, he lived in the late 1800s, 1700s, in fact, 1780, 1800, he wrote a book. Okay, he's a great thinker because he wrote a book. You know what he says? Beyond good and evil. He says he attacks this idea of categorizing world into 2 or 3 or 4. He got it. He's almost there. He's almost there. If he were exposed to Vedanta, he will say, I got it. And he would have moved away from the whole thing. He would have written Vedanta text, which we would be studying now. But he was there. He said, beyond good and evil, you people have divided the world into good and evil, devil and God and all that. This is a very childish thing. You Google it up. Beyond good and evil. My goodness. So, correct. See, so therefore, you don't, it is there in our culture. So much is there in our culture that we have taken for granted. And you're right. So there is something that has to be sustaining good and evil. Then evil, okay, Vyavaharika, good and evil, fine. But don't take it as absolutes. Don't say God is absolute good and you are absolute evil and all. It's all wrong. It's all gone. We don't accept all. That is why you've got books like Why I Am Not a Christian by Bertrand Russell. And you've got the modern people also. What's his name? Christopher Hitchens. God is not great, he says. He allows God, you can have your God, but he's not great. Because he's dividing the world like this is not acceptable to me. So it's in our culture. So therefore, we have to, the difference in religions, these people have thought it out. There's another one, Alan Watts. There's a guy. Okay, my friend has been sending some videos of Alan Watts. Character. And so they've all independently are coming. See, because they don't have the benefit of the Shastra. And so they're independently working hard, working against the tide. That's what I told my friend. Alan Watts is good, but he's working against the tide because there's nothing to help him. He's by himself. And he has to work against the entire machinery, the entire religious machinery, government machinery, everything is against this guy. He's a rishi. If just one small short step, he's away. That's all he is. So yeah, you're right, Meera. Yeah, Vaidyaji, go ahead.
Jaykumarji, this is just a clarification. One of the definition of deha is dahyate iti deha. So that which is subject to be cremated, for example, right? And then the other one you said this tapatrayadi tapyate iti deha. Is that what you said?
Tapyate, pidiyate, yeah. Tapyate iti deha. Yeah, sometimes Kalpadruma and all will give that meaning. That is, even before the body is burned, it is worthy of being called Deha. That is the meaning of that.
Okay.
I mean, they are just some definitions somebody has given. And it's meant for appreciating that attribute of change that is there in all of Kshetra.
Yes.
That's the most important thing to get out of that. Yeah. Because we are now going to talk about Kshetrajnam. If Kshetra is all change, what about Kshetrajnam? Okay, Avyayam, Avinashi and all will come, which connects to Kshetrajnam. Thanks,
Thank
Vaidya.
you. Thank you, Jaykumar.
Yeah, by the way, your internet is sometimes coming and going. I think we've seen it almost in every class. And it's sometimes the video freezes and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Vijay, go ahead.
Yeah, short question. So, Guruji, you mentioned about Kshetrajna meaning Nirguna Brahma, everything, right? The knower. So Kshetra also exists in Kshetrajna in a way, right? Can you say that? Because you said that is the substratum. Would we eventually lead us towards that?
When you say Kshetra exists in Kshetrajna, what do you mean by that?
Because Kshetrajna is the one which is, you can't say perceiving, the knower, right? The ultimate. That's where everything is happening. Even the Kshetra is being, exists inside Kshetrajna. This is how I interpret it. Because you said Kshetrajna is Nirguna Brahma. So it's Nirguna Brahma. That Nirguna Brahma is in which everything is existing. That is existence. That is consciousness, isn't it?
Yeah. So we saw that, one of the shlokas, what is that?
Nachamastani bhutani.
Matstani sarva bhutani. And then nacha matstani bhutani. Okay. Pashyame yogam aishwaram. He's saying, look at the beauty of this. Matstani sarva bhutani. The entire universe is in me. It's situated in me. Is supported by me. And then next line, within hardly a breath is over. Thought, nacha matstani bhutani. Pashyame yoga maishwaram. Krishna is saying, what can I do? This is how life is. He is saying, there is really no separate thing. Since you are the one who is keeping on saying there is separate thing, this is there, world is there, duality is there, you are the one who brought it all up. So I'm forced to say the entire world of duality is resting in me, the Adhishtanam, the Paramarthika Satyam. But really speaking, you don't just because I said it, don't look for that separate world, because there is no separate world at all. Therefore, nacha matstani bhutani. There's nothing separate to sit on me and all that. It's not there at all. Like that, he says. And therefore, back to your question. Kshetra is in Kshetrajna. Matstani sarva bhutani. Yes, the answer is yes to that. Okay. But you don't look at Kshetram as separate from Kshetrajna. For say, separate thing, yeah. This pot is sitting on my hand right now. The palm is the supporter of the pot. Like that is there. And pot is now not there. Pot is now on the table. Yeah. Don't you think of it like that. Krishna is saying that. That is not the way it works here. Clay supports the pot, but clay does not support the pot also. Be ready for that, is what he's saying. Clay supports the pot, correct. But suppose I say pot's existence itself is in question, and there is no separate pot separate from clay. Then where is the question of pot, clay supporting pot? Anirvachaniyam. Pot is anirvachaniyam. It exists, but it does not exist also. That's the idea. That is Vyavaharika Satyam. Anirvachanayam is what? Another way of defining Vyavaharika Satyam. So Kshetram is Vyavaharika Satyam and Pratibhasikam also included there. And this idea of separation has to slowly go away. Separation. God is supporting the world. This idea has to go away slowly. God is the world. Okay? To get to that point sometime. Good. We'll talk about another aspect in the next class or so about this Ketragnyam, Nor, etc. I'll bring it up in the next class. All right, it's 8:20. I have a class in half an hour, so I'm stopping now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantarye Amrita Kalasha Hastaya सर्वामय विनाशनाय त्रैलोक्यनाथाय श्री महाविष्णवे नमः.